Chapter 27. Waking Nightmare. Consciousness returned to Daniel as a curse more than a blessing. The reality of who stood before him and what he had come from struck him like the symptoms of a fever. He didn't weep nor lash out. In light of all that he now knew and had seen firsthand, there was nothing he could say in response. He couldn't condemn the man that caused all of it. He couldn't call upon a promise that they would one day see justice. He could only sit there, struck silent by the cold reality of this world. Abimelech snorted at how easily he succumbed and simply leaned back in his chair. Shouts and grunts continued to sound off outside of his field of vision, and it began to bore him. Futility isn't in either god's nature. Just finish them off. The walls of blackness receded and coalesced behind Abimelech's throne. A living whirlpool, the color of Grimm's flesh, amassed that eventually took shape in the form of a many-headed hydra. A mythical colossus that defied all reason came into existence before their eyes. Abimelech's fortress revealed itself to be just as much a monster as its inhabitant, and with a roar that could only be compared to a tornado's birth cry upon the homes of innocents, Gideon, Havaliah, and Olivia all readied themselves to defend the friend that had always been there to defend them before. Havaliah was the first to gain a clarity of mind and began coordinating their assault. "Gideon, find a way to make physical contact with it. Olivia, watch for his reactions." And without another word, she threw herself into the coiling mass of screeching heads by unleashing her cable-linked blades and became a living buzzsaw looking for any blow to gain purchase upon the abomination. Gideon never found himself without enthusiasm in the presence of his indefatigable friend. He took a few breaths and readied himself for what would result from pursuing his berserk frenzy. However, before he had a chance to run towards any of the heads, he felt the force of a truck hit his chest and sent him flying backwards. After getting the wind knocked out of him, his vision blurred as he saw a figure walking towards him. He grunted in protest as he was dragged to his feet, but still lacked the strength to resist. The individual held him close to his face and allowed him a moment to gain respite. When his eyes refocused, he thought he was looking in a mirror. "There's that handsome fella, back among the land of the living." And with a shout, he threw Gideon back again, putting more and more distance between him and the Grimm. Consciously keeping his distance, he noticed all of the impact marks on his armor were exactly there, on his armor. Normally, people look for weak points, but this man had clearly done his homework. Abimelech raised his massive claw out to his chosen opponent and wagged his finger. "I'm sorry, good-looking. I can't let you hurt Charybdis." Gideon rolled his shoulders after rolling his eyes. "Is that what you call it? I'm more concerned about what to call you." The tone of disgust wasn't without bite on Abimelech, but his arrogant gait took the insult with a laugh. "You call me a monster? I'm almost tempted to disagree." A moment passed before he closed the full 200 meters between them and saw another swipe send him spinning 180 degrees. He was caught before he fell and felt intense weight pressing on the back of his helmet. He then realized he was being forced to look out into the camp now that they were all out in the open. The Grimm had been contained by the bandits, and now their master was in danger. A large crowd was gathering their direction, and Gideon realized they had been set up. Abimelech gently reached down to take Gideon's human hand within his own. "Let's let deeds speak louder than words." Gideon suddenly realized what he was about to do and tried with all his might to pull away. He may as well have been trying to shoulder press a mountain. A single claw cut his glove and put Abimelech's stone flesh into direct contact with Gideon's own. His yell of defiance turned into an echoing thunderclap as the very ground beneath him cracked from his semblance set to a higher level than he ever imagined it could. Months had been spent with Havaliah giving him the opportunity to share her heart with his own. From that trust came self-control. He found his limits, and now, in a moment, had passed them. In a moment, a tidal wave of dead bodies flowed from Gideon, throwing himself at the crowd that had amassed before him. Grimm, bandit, tent stake, or tree, all found themselves bisected or simply atomized by the sheer force of his blow. Abimelech watched his entire army die in an instant by his own machinations. And he smiled.